We have a special guest today for you all. This is my best friend, Jonathan Perricelli. Well, he goes by Perricelli, but that doesn't matter. So he's an amazing friend of mine. We grew up together, born 2 months apart. He has an incredible story of overcoming obstacles and not letting anything define him. Without further ado, my man, the myth, the legend, the Italian Don Parmesan, as known in the fantasy football circles. Welcome, my friend. It's been a long time coming.
It has.
We've had some hiccups. We finally got you here after all this time.
You are here. Well, I was here, and we're back again. It's very exciting.
We're back again, bro. You are my best friend, as I have told many people.
Yep.
And we literally were born at the same time.
Yep.
Your parents stole my name. In case people are wondering. You
stole both your names.
Wait, you guys were born at the exact same time?
No, 2 months apart. Okay, but I was supposed to be called Jonathan David. And then your parents were like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe your parents had the idea first, but they said, we're going to name you Jonathan David. So now I'm David Christopher. So I feel like my identity is kind of all over the place.
Wow. A little bit.
You still
I remind
that
you
way?
of that, though. It's something I got that 2 months on you and the name. So I always kind of just lord that over you, even though you're like, 7 inches taller and like 8 inches wider. And
sometimes 9 inches wider.
We used to pick on Isaac all the time.
Yes. He's the butt of a lot of our jokes.
Yeah, I've grown into it a bit more.
Yeah, he's like our little Oompa Loompa.
I'm not Oompa Loompa. Get out of here with that. Go jump off a cliff into nothingness.
So, bro, I know you. Isaac knows parts of you.
It's a really, really interesting way to open a podcast. Intimately acquainted.
So me and you, we live life together. We worked out for a long time. We're in fantasy football. We
started our journey back together.
Literally, we were inspired by David Goggins together.
Yeah.
Just share with people that don't know you a little bit about your history and some things you've gone through that have made you the man you are today.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is awesome. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah.
I think a really good way to categorize my life, like you've heard of hedonism before, like the seeking of pleasure. That was my life in every aspect I could find it. You know what I mean? Whether it was drugs, whether it was, sometimes gambling. It was never really like my thing. I lost a lot of money like the 1 or 2 times I tried. And I was like,
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, this isn't for me.
Bro, you suck at poker, bro.
I've been in crypto for a long time. I've gambled a lot of money away.
Oh, man. But, alcohol, drugs, partying, women, just wherever I could find something to take away, I think, aspects of how I was feeling, because I never really dealt with things. I was never really trained in that. I grew up in the church and was taught, hey, this is the way you live, but it was always about a man or, an individual that I lived up to. And it was very much rewards based. Like, you do this, you're given this. You do this, this is what's going to happen to you. So my life was always built around this idea that I had to be a good person to get good things versus just live a life of action and, be humble, be a man of integrity, all the things that we talk about and you want to do. It was very much an external life versus living in an internal perspective of, I see something happen and dealing with that internally, like, something upsets me and like actually trying to work through it versus, bottle it down and then, blow up later, or, do a drug to take away that pain.
What got you into that lifestyle?
What was the catalyst?
Yeah, because you talked about, drugs, alcohol, and, that kind of rock and roll lifestyle, as you've told me before.
Yeah.
Kind of like, what was that moment that, whether it was something just inside of you, whether it was influences of people around you, what got you into that lifestyle?
Man, I was like super afraid of everything growing up. Like, I just was very unsure, but I loved people. So like, I wanted to be accepted. Like, it was always about fear of man is something that was a very deep driver of all of my actions in life. Like,
Me too.
I had to find a way to be accepted by people. I had to be right in the eyes of the people that I was around. So for me, it was always about, if I'm around people, I was really good at being a chameleon. Like, I could be in an environment with a group of guys, a group of girls, a group of people, and I'd be life of the party. And I could be in another group, completely different everything, different demographic, different age group, different everything. And I'm life of the party. I'm just that guy. You look at guys like Robin Williams or Chris Farley, these comedians, and it truly is, those who suffer in silence, that they want to make people laugh. They want to bring life to people. And I was so about that. It was around like high school, so I got in trouble when I was like 16. I got in trouble for watching pornography and I got locked down. Like,
Haven't we all?
They were like year and a half, like
I
straight
was
up.
so good at hiding it, bro.
I thought I was until my mom was like, Hungarian honeys, what? And I'm like home computer, like, are you kidding me? Like,
I was really bad at hiding it.
Bro, you got caught so much.
I think you were
mom
just
caught me so
cocky
many
though.
times. She
You're
was
like,
like-
no one will know.
Yeah, my mom walked in. She's like,
Isaac.
I felt so embarrassed.
It's embarrassing. It's shocking.
As a man, it feels demasculating. Like if you're, getting it on with yourself and then your mom walks in.
I mean, it was like I came home from working out with a buddy and she had the laptop and she just looked up at me and like the look alone, I was like,
Especially from your mom.
and she just started
Italian eyes.
reading off like names and I was like, oh, I'm
she
done.
read it off to you?
So at that point, I got locked up. You know what I mean? Like it was church, school, and that was it. So for a year and a half, I had no life but this structured environment that they put me in. And, for me, it was very much so I was self-medicating, right? So when I graduated high school, literally the day I graduated, I got my stuff, packed up my little car, and I was like, deuces, I'm out. And I had a guy that I worked for, his brother had a house. I was like, yo, dude, I'll pay you rent. Can I move in? He's like, absolutely. And I flipped out.
This went wild.
Just absolutely crazy. I mean, you name it, I was doing it. You know what I mean? And it was just, I was top of the world, bro. Like, you couldn't tell me anything. You know what I mean? Whether it was drugs, whether it was, like I said, it was across the board. Whatever I can get my hands on, I was going to do. And I lived hard and fast for, a while and fell flat on my face. And
How long was it? Was it how many years was it?
so I was 17 when I graduated, and I was out until about 22. And in that, 4 or 5 year span, man, I lived a very insane life.
Was there a moment that you said, I have to change? Or was it that you just got to the rock bottom where you had nothing left? What was that moment that got you to get out of that?
Man, I mean, I think rock bottom there's levels for everyone, right? Like you can hit rock bottom and then you can hit a lower rock bottom and then you can hit it again and again and again. I think for me, the darkness of the world and the darkness of my own soul and the darkness of my despair is what drove me to where I'm at today, right? So, I got to a point where emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, I was shot. I wouldn't say I was like hearing voices, but there was I had very intruding thoughts all the time. I'd be places and I'd feel very out of my body. I couldn't connect with people. I'd be in a room with people. And like I said, I was always life of the party, very happy, very in myself, able to control my environment and who I was and able to manipulate situations really well. I became like a master craft at just being able to take a situation and make it whatever I wanted. And I lost every aspect of that. My self-esteem, all of it was shot. I was out of my mind and I was scared. And I knew if I don't do something, I'm either going to die or I'm going to lose my mind. And I didn't want to do either. So
yeah, a lot of rock bottom for men is, like you mentioned, there's different levels of rock bottom. I think one of the biggest things for men, especially because men commit suicide at a way bigger rate than women do. Specifically, national polls believe it's over 2 to 1 men commit suicide. So what do you feel like is the catalyst for you that got you to that rock bottom when you were in that moment as a man? What were you feeling that kind of spurred you to want to make a change?
I had no more, it wasn't fun anymore. You know what I mean? Like the lows weren't worth the highs, So like you get to a place where you're experiencing all this stuff on a regular basis and you're able to self-medicate. You're able to take the pain away and feel good. I couldn't do that anymore. It just wasn't working. And I saw the pain in my mother and my father's eyes. I saw my sister, I saw my friends and family. One of my best friends, he went through a lot with me and they couldn't take it. You know what I mean? Because to be in a relationship with someone that's constantly destroying themselves,
it's horrible.
It's unlike anything, man. And it's so selfish because it's all about you. Everything you do is all about you. And I've learned throughout a lot of this journey of mine, these last, really, I'm 30, I'll be 32 in, a few days, whatever, a week or so. And I think about a lot of the stuff that I did when my early 20s and that path, man, it's such a destructive state to the people around you because it leaves them with such PTSD after the fact where if you don't pick up the phone when they call or you're not where you're supposed to be or your eyes are a little red or you're acting a little weird, your words are a little slurred because you're tired, they don't trust you. And then you get upset, but it's like, what did you do to create that? you're the one that created that environment in the relationship. You disrupted the covenant that you have with these people. So to be upset at them is like, well, you did that. So now you have to earn that back, because everything in relationship is give and take.
That's
right?
so tough, bro.
Yeah,
it is.
Jocko Willing talks about in his book that he wrote, radical ownership or radical accountability. And I think, unfortunately, in this society that we're in today, a lot of men struggle with radical accountability, radical ownership of not just the life that they have around them, whether they're married or have kids, but the actual accountability for themselves personally, because you can't give away what you don't have. And so what are some ways that you really decided to take on that radical ownership and accountability in your own life?
It's funny. You say you can't give away what you don't have. I also believe you can't take from me what you didn't give to me. So I believe that the freedom that I found in this life, in my spiritual journey and all that I've uncovered, I found a sense of security in that no man can take from me, from that fear of man that I had dealt with for so many years. There's still struggles in that, right? Like I still experience things where someone will say something to me or something will happen, or I'll connect with people, have a great encounter, see them out. And there's like this insecurity of me of like, oh man, like, how do I act? How do I talk? And so you can really quickly go back to that, but it truly is real of that, where if I've earned it and I've experienced it, like, I'm firm believer of Jesus Christ, that he's my Lord and Savior, and I have a very, very intimate relationship with him. Outside of, I believe you don't forsake the fellowship of God's people, right? But I also believe that it has to be real inside of you. So anyway, it's just something for me that I try to stick rooted in, because I know in these situations where something happens that I don't like, or I don't want, or I don't know how to respond, whether it's with friendships, like it can be really hard for me to divulge into people now.
For those people out there that are in the lifestyle you used to be in, where you struggled, you were in the dirt, you didn't know what to do, what would be either your advice or message to them of what helped you get out of that, and that you see as actually viable paths? Because we have people every day around the world saying, okay, are you addicted to something? Or you can't get over that hump. This is the magic pill, right? There's all these self-help books. There's everything you can imagine. What worked for you to get out of that? So what would be your message to those people?
You got to do it, bro. It's action. It's all action. It's Goggins, we've talked about it, and his philosophy, I think he's not for everyone, but I have such an intimate connection with his message, right? Because it comes from such a real place. And I think, yeah, man, and I know it, I know that dark place. I understand what it feels like to be alone and to feel completely helpless and to be so scared that I'm not going to wake up in the morning, and to be so scared that, I'm never going to be able to look my mother and my father in the eye and feel proud of the man that I am, and not be a fraud, right? I know what it feels like to not step up to the plate and fall short constantly. So, I think it really comes back to initiative and action on a daily basis, right? Like, what are the things in my life I can do? I've always talked about it, and something I'd heard, this is years ago, your internal mindset is reflected in your environment, right? So when you have a chaotic mind,
that's huge,
and you're not structured and your thoughts are all over the place, just look around you, right? Your bedroom, your car, all the places you go, and your daily life is a part of. What is that reflected? Is it chaotic? Is it messy? What does it look like, right? And like, I'm not great about it, but they say making your bed in the morning, first thing you're doing, you're choosing to wake up and take action, right? Your alarm goes off, getting up as soon as that goes off. So that's practical stuff you hear from everybody.
My wife's father always said that you can tell a man what a man is if you look at his car and his bedroom.
Absolutely.
Because it shows order. Certain level of order is what's going on in the inside. When there is chaos all around you, even if it's this great business person but then you go home and there's just chaos, it shows that he might be putting on a facade in front of other people in order to look either important or have it all together. But what's going on internally is reflection in your car, your room, your environment, and how you keep things clean even then.
Kind of piggybacking on it, when I was in a really, really bad place, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, dude, I'm lost. It was so frustrating because it felt like it was never gonna end, right? Like when you have this anxiousness and you have this depression and all this stuff building up inside of you, and everything in your life is crumbling down, and there's nothing that you can rely on, you have to find a place of solace. You have to find your rock, right? Obviously from a spiritual standpoint, I always say if you believe in nothing or you believe in something, if we're talking about your life and your spirit, don't you want to know for a fact that it's real or it's not. Like, go on that journey. Like, forget fantasy football, forget video games, forget sports, forget your job, forget everything. Like, your life, like who you are spiritually, that should be your greatest initiative to know intimately. Like, you have something that you love in your life, like whatever that is, like what's something that like you truly like, you know, so much about. Bitcoin, is that a fair statement?
Crypto, yeah.
Yeah, so like, you know, crypto to the point where like if you talk to anyone about it, you could have a very intelligent conversation and probably know more than most people.
Yeah.
So to that level, if we're talking about a spiritual journey and who you are at your core, that should be the amount of intimacy you know, right? And the Bible talks about Adam knew Eve in an intimate way. God knows us in an intimate way. That means we're one with that spirit. So, you know, I think if you look at the life of a man, especially, to not know yourself is to be, it's such a disservice, man, because you can't do anything. That's the core of it all, is know who you are, know your purpose. Once you find that, go attack life. And that's the only way you're going to be able to do it, is know who you are, right? So, I mean, it sounds grandiose.
You're speaking my language,
yeah,
boy.
so if I'm a man watching right now and I'm listening to what you're saying and saying, oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
But what is I feel lost. I feel I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my mission is.
Yeah.
You know, you have a lot of gurus out there, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but just in general, that say, find your mission, find your purpose, write it down, make it clear on paper, make sure that you have an outline of your vision. But a lot of guys men out there feel so lost and broken in that dark place, they don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
What are the first steps that you took? When you say action, can you dive into that a little bit more and tell us what are the, like, really practically some ways that you came out of that dark place? Because the hardest thing for men to do is just to start. Yeah. Once you start, then it's a lot easier and you can move forward.
What do they say, 21 days?
Yeah. Well, to change a pattern in your brain neuropathically with your dopaminergic centers in your prefrontal cortex, you have to do something for 30 days before it becomes a habit, right? But for you specifically, what were some things that you did to literally pull yourself out of that place just to get started?
I mean, for me, I needed a reset, so I went away somewhere. You know what I mean? It was a very structured, militant environment. We were up 4:30 every day. You go, you do your studies, you get ready, you go to work, you work until 4 or 5 o'clock. You drive back home. It's usually a 45-minute drive. You get home, you go to chow hall, you eat, you do your studies, you do your homework, whatever we have activities that night, and then you go to bed, and it's lights off. Structure is such a key component, because if you ask any man that is what you're talking about, I guarantee they have no structure. And if they have structure, it's emptiness. Yeah. So I think, for me, there's two pieces of that, right? Like, one, you either have a full heart, and that's a thankful heart, right? You're constantly filled with gratitude, right? So if it starts with every day you wake up and you write down 10 things that you're grateful for, you'll be surprised how hard it is to write down 10 things. It's really pathetic, but it's true. And for me, I remember the first day I literally was like, I'm thankful for air. Like, that's how bad it was. And by day like 8, I had like 60 things I was able to write, but it was so real, and it became something that was such a genuine action for me. And the second piece was that, and kind of tying into that, if it's not full, you have a heart of lust, right? You're constantly pulling and trying to fill it with something. So you have a lustful heart or a thankful heart. And then the other piece is mercy, is live a life of mercy where you're doing for others. If you don't know what your mission is, help other people out.
Boom.
Like, if you don't know what to do, look at the people around you. Because, like, what did we talk about last time? You have all these guys with TikToks, 5 a.m., dun, 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 alarms going off. They're doing their devotionals. They're going to the gym. They're going to work. They're grinding. They're go. That's great. But, like, what is your filling of yourself doing to the other people? Like, great, you're good at your job. That's awesome. You're grinding. You're stacking paper. But, like, if your mission in life, I told you about it. My father, he had just passed. And his wake that he's left behind is one of love.
That was an amazing
that was an amazing
a few weeks ago.
Memorial service, man. That was really touching.
That was incredible.
It was hard to see it before it happened, but then as it happened, I felt such a genuine love throughout that time. And after the fact, I've been praying, like, man, like, I just need a sign of something. I actually dreamt about him last night, and it was special, man. And I think about him as an individual, and I think I said it in my speech, right? Like, he was a billionaire in love. He could afford to give it knowing he wouldn't receive it, because he had such an abundance of it. And I think that's such a testament to any man in this world that wants to be something, right? Like, if you're leaving something behind, love is the greatest gift of all.
Through the experience of your father passing, I know it's a very sensitive subject, what did you realize going through that? Because they say that a loss of a loved one it teaches you a lot, but it also helps you to appreciate life in a much deeper way. So what are some of the things that either was revelation from God or just kind of your own inner experience going through that?
And I'm still going through it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like one of the, you know, it's one of my really close friends. He had mentioned, you know, when you go through something like that, death, the birth of a child, marriage, you're only changed through the actual experience. And from that experience, something inside of you changes, clicks, whatever it is. It's, you know, I always think about it like a video game, right? You reach a new level. You're no longer on the level you were before, and you can never go back. And, you know, in that specific game, right? You can start a new campaign or whatever. But, you know, for me, I feel like once I started to experience that, because my dad, you know, he had cancer and he suffered dearly for, you know, a period of time. And throughout that, every time I was around him, it was like, this could be the last. And so, you know, you start to appreciate those little moments and the happiness and the joy you get to experience throughout it. But that suffering, it scars you. And so you start to see things from a different perspective. The things that were so important to you before, they just kind of dwindle down. And the time you spend doing things, being bitter and frustrated with people. My dad, one of the things that he really preached to me before he had died is, you know, he had a heavy New York accent. Like, you ever seen The Godfather?
One of my favorite movies.
Marlon
One of my
Brando,
favorite
bro.
movies.
Like, Gianni, come on, you got to let it go. That's his thing. Oh, let it go. Let it go. Forget about it.
Forget about
That was his thing, you know. But he was such a dad. You know, he was a hard guy. You know, you could meet him, and be like, man, you know, he's kind of intense.
Dude,
but you spent any bit of time with him, you had to, because he was full of it, right? Like, such love. And I mean, he could see a guy across the street, his pants be hanging down to, what are you doing? Pick your pants up. Why would you do that? Like, he's so, you know, he met my wife. He's like, why do you get a tattoo on your foot? And she's like, I like it. He's like, I don't like it. And it's like, bro, like, no one cares what you like. It's her tattoo, you know? But he said it from a place of like, your body's beautiful. Why would you want to put that on it, right? So even if he said something from a negative place, he was born in the 40s. He was a New York Italian.
Marine, right?
Yeah,
Different
Marine.
generation.
His family from Italy. Like, it's a totally different perspective, and he appreciated life so dearly. So to answer your question, you know, through that time, I think, you know, I've learned, one, you cannot put on other people your pain. What you're experiencing and what you're going through, it's you have to endure that. But it's also understanding you have people with you that want to walk through that with you. So don't suffer in silence, but also understand it's your responsibility to keep moving. And, you know, I think one of the stark realities for me is, you know, life doesn't stop. You know, I can be in a lot of pain. I can be and I can have a rough day. My boss still wants that report. You know, those customers still need that you know, whatever, I got to get back to them. So, you know, I think a lot of the stuff that I've experienced over this time has really humbled me throughout the process of understanding, like, you know what, I still got a kid, I still got a wife, I still got a mortgage, I still got all this stuff. So, you know, I think Goggins said it best. You know, we suffer the way we do. We destroy our bodies to strengthen our minds, so that when you get that call, because I got that call at 2 a.m.
I remember.
We were texting.
Me and you we're night owls sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Hey, I'm getting better, bro.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, we were texting. I remember getting that call, and it's like, dude, I haven't seen your dad in years, but I grew up with him.
Yeah.
He was like my second father growing up.
Yeah.
Just even from afar, it made me realize, like, man, I don't want to take any of my family for granted. You just don't know. You don't know, you know, and I was feeling for you as my brother, and my heart broke for you. But just, I saw even my own family different. You know, I saw people different, because we all get upset about so simple things. Oh, they cut me off in traffic. Oh, screw you, F you, man.
Yeah, and you let it ruin you for like an hour.
And you let it ruin your day.
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
You know, or you get upset at your wife because, you know, she is trying to talk to you too much and trying to work. And you push them away.
Yeah.
But you don't realize, you don't know when that life is going to end.
No.
And that helped me to kind of, I felt that in that moment, man.
Yeah. And during the memorial, one thing that really stuck with me when you were up on stage and your sister was sharing about all of the amazing experiences with her dad, all the amazing stories, and she's a really good speaker and just very engaging. And it was really cool. Just, it gave me a lot of memories of your dad, even from times I spent with him. But from your perspective as a man, she did mention about passing the torch.
Yeah.
Or passing the legacy of the family, that you're now the overseer, if you will,
the Don Parmesan.
the Don Parmesan of the family, And
You gave me that nickname.
did I?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
When?
In 12 Angry Men.
Oh, I did.
Wait, you were already...
No, not Don Parmesan. The Godfather of fantasy is what
the
it was.
Godfather.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, my buddy
I didn't
Chris.
think I gave you the Don
My
Parmesan.
buddy Chris gave me Don Parmesan. I'm sorry, I can't give that to you. Sorry, bro.
It's all good.
Yeah,
It's all
keep
good.
going. The torch, yeah.
Yeah, so passing of the torch as a man, and in the midst of loss of your dad, what did that feel like in that moment for you, to just not even necessarily the burden of it, but the responsibility in the midst of all the other responsibilities that you have? Because men, like you said, life doesn't stop.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, the bills still have to be paid. Everything else has to happen in the way that it was meant to happen, and you can't silently suffer. But for you, what did that feel like to know that the torch was being passed to you in terms of legacy? Because I think that's what a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to loss, is legacies being passed down. That your father gave you an amazing legacy of love. What did that feel like in that moment?
Man, it's. So I mean, first initial response was like it was very sobering. Like when I heard it, it was like, oh, he's gone. Like there's no, in the back of your mind, like when we sat there and the doctor was like, hey, you have cancer, 13 months is kind of like the best we think. Like I resolved to myself, all right, he's gone. Like I accepted it. Maybe that's not right. Like, from a Christian perspective, like you didn't have faith. Like, no, I didn't. And I'm man enough to admit, like
that's real.
Like I heard it and I was just like, okay, like this is it. Like, cause I saw him deteriorating. I saw the version of my father, the only time I ever saw my father, like not himself. I remember I was a little kid and he had a herniated disc in his back. He went to a chiropractor and there's this belt he put on him. It was supposed to kind of like help straighten him out. And for whatever reason, when it locked, it like pushed the disc and he was in excruciating pain, fell to the ground and was like screaming. And the doctor couldn't get it off of him. He's like bleeding on his elbows because he's crawling, trying to like just get out of pain. And he was on the couch and they had to call an EMS and come and get him. And he was in the hospital for a few days and he got out and he was better. And he always had kind of this lump on the side of his back. And I think that was from all that scar tissue and stuff from that. But anyway, like other than that, like my dad was always like just a strong guy. Like he'd get kidney stones. My guy would be up all night. You'd hear dink, dink after like hours of him in the bathroom. Next morning, he's up bright and early. Hey, Johnny, like ready to roll. Like my guy, he didn't miss work. He had his marching orders and he always carried them out until his final day. Like he came off his ventilator. First thing, did mom make it to the post office on time? And I'm like, bro, catch your breath. Like, yes, she did. He's like, no, but seriously. I'm like, yeah. So, I think it was sobering in the fact that I realized like, this is a legend. What did I say? Like he was a stranger to few, a legend to many. Like that's truly how I describe my father. So, I think it was the torch of it was humbling, but it also just became like, all right, well, he's gone now. Like I have a responsibility. I can't, I can't be that same person. And I'm still like, that's a battle, man.
Yeah.
Like every single day.
It really is, man. But transitioning now to men becoming strong men again, because you've learned a lot about yourself through this. The last couple of years, we've been challenging each other to work out, to be disciplined. We kind of became part of this movement together.
Yeah.
I want you to define a very difficult term that we're asking everybody. What is masculinity in today's world? Because there's so many different sides. It's a pendulum, right? Of super masculine and then men being demasculated and feminized, where you can't be a strong man, because if you be a strong man, then it means it has to be at the expense of women.
What does Alex Jones say, bro? There's estrogen in the water. They're turning the frogs gay. No, I think it's interesting.
So
that's actually profound.
That's actually profound.
Believe it or not.
So what is masculinity to you? Or at least what should masculinity be?
Yeah.
Because there's so many definitions of it.
Yeah, man. I think when you see someone and you watch them operate at a consistent level, you see them treat people with respect. You see them when you go, I think I used the example last time when we were chatting, like when you go to move somebody and you see there's somebody like just moving, working, you gravitate to them. You're like, hey, what do I need to do? Like you're taking your marching orders from the person that's taking action. So I think, masculinity, I mean, it can be defined at a high level. It can be defined at a deep level. I think to me, very simply, it's to prove through action you're a leader, right? Like through trust, through continued effort. Like I was talking to a really good friend of mine, Josh. He did the memorial, and I asked him, I was like, dude, how? Because after I had my son, like I became very, very thoughtful about everything. Because I'm like, all right, I can't let this guy get messed up like I did. Like I have to, you know, I saw something years ago. It was like getting to see your child without all the trauma that you experienced and how you would have turned out. And like, that's profound.
It's like a pane glass mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. And like my parents did an incredible job. Like my mom and dad were like, my mom is like, she is as angelic as they come. Like,
dude, your mom's amazing.
She's just like this, like, and I'm like, how? Like, you know, like why? But that's just who she is at her core. But so that reference isn't for them. I say it in the sense of like, I just experienced a lot of trauma that was some self-induced and other just life happened. But I became very provoked by the idea of like, how do I protect him from a life of pain and trauma and all these different things? And I started to realize in myself that I allowed situations to change me instead of letting myself change those situations, right? So like certain things are going to happen, but in the reality of it, what is the saying? Like life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you respond to it. Like it's
that's
frame that on your freaking fridge.
Might be my first tattoo.
Because for example, if I want to slap Isaac, it's all about how we respond to that slapping.
It is. Like if he punches you in the face, like how do you like? Let's try it out. No, I'm sorry.
I mean, if you want to record it with your phone, bro, we'll go out back. You know?
But my buddy, he had made a comment. I said, how do you deal with like, do you ever get upset with your kid? Like, what do you do? And he's like 100%. He said, it's not about how I act in that moment. It's how I respond to it. Right. So like if I raise my voice to him or I'm, you know, I say something to him, he plays a baseball game and I'm frustrated. Hey man, you should have did this or this, whatever. It's going to him after the fact and humbling myself and saying, hey man, I was really wrong. And this is why. Explaining it to him, talking to him and giving him an opportunity to communicate with you. That doesn't mean you get to just blow up whenever you want. You grow through that process. But it's understanding that I'm going to show him a humble man that's willing to say, hey, I'm not better than anyone. I'm a human being and I made a mistake. So let's talk about that. So I think that's been a really big piece for me is understanding. Like today, my kid, he's teething really bad and he just like randomly will get super hype. Like he's very similar to me in that aspect where like we'll be chilling, we're watching Cars, Lightning McQueen is crushing it, and my bro will look at me and go, and just like latch on to me and bite me. And
it's that Italian blood, man. Bro,
he did it like 3 or 4 times, and like the 4th time he bit me hard, and I was like, Gabriel. And he sat up and like, I held his shoulders. I was like, my guy, we can't do this. I was like, I'm sorry I yelled. I love you, but no mas. Like, because he says mas. My wife, for some reason, that's the only thing he knows in Spanish is mas. So he's like, mas, daddy, mas. And I'm like, why did you teach him this?
I know it's like my little kid's half Latina. What's your opinion of Andrew Tate?
Well, can I go into something real quick? So
no,
Andrew Tate, I was actually just thinking about this. The problem that I have with Andrew Tate, which goes hand in hand with what you're saying.
I got something really good for you on
about
this.
Fathering specifically is he's not very, it's at least from what his message says, is that it's not very relational when it comes to fathering. It's very, you're going to do this. This is the rules. This is how it is. If you don't like it, suck it.
I mean, there's an aspect of I'm your father. And, but
so what's the balance for you then?
I mean, you got to understand, man, like my wife chose me. She chose to be with me. I chose her. My son was brought into this world as a gift from God. And I have the responsibility now. And I believe when I die, the 2 things I'll be asked is your wife and your son better than they were than when I gave them to you? And how many people did you bring with you? Like those are the 2 things that at my core I truly believe. I think there's an aspect that's like very deeply rooted in a relationship, because if he doesn't trust me, then I can be this authority in his life, but he'll just do it until he doesn't have to, and then when he can, he's gone. I want to have a relationship with my son where he craves that. Hey, Dad, I need to talk to you about, because he trusts that I have his best interest at heart. He knows I'm not perfect, but he knows I'm always going to be raw with him.
You're not going to bite his head off.
No, and listen, if I do, I know I'm wrong. I can come to him as a man and be like, man, I was really wrong in the way
That's one of the things so missing in the whole masculinity talk today, because so many people, including Andrew Tate, they refuse to say they're wrong because they'll say, oh, well, I have a different opinion than I had back in the day. But apologizing is so absent. And I think
it's because they don't believe. Well, it's also they don't believe in repentance.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Because I had a conversation with you a while back about Tate, and like, listen, like I don't know him personally. I just know what he's represented to the public and what he is outwardly. I'm a very firm believer. If you listen to someone from a dirty fountain, you'll get dirty. So he may have some really good things to say, but over time, I'll water down his message to say, he doesn't really mean that. When he does mean that. He does mean that you should go screw any girl you want because you've earned it. He does mean that you should be able to take control and dominate others because you're a man and you're an alpha. And that's fine if that's his message. But for me, what am I portraying to people in that instance, right? If there's a man that's lost and he turns on Andrew Tate and he's like, you're a pussy, you're this, you're that, whatever the hell he's going to say.
Always in an Italian accent, of course.
Yeah, of course. You're all these things. If I look at this guy, I mean, listen, he made his fortune by pimping out girls and working with guys that were like
webcam stuff,
and working with guys that were super stupid and just gave him money to be better men. Like, and that's great. Good for you. I don't care. But I think if you're listening to these guys that are all about his message, you're doing yourself a disservice because again, it's a very cultish like atmosphere. You're serving an individual. Oh, Tate said this. I don't care what Tate said. He's nobody to me. What does he care about me? He doesn't pay my bills. He doesn't serve me. He's not going to help me. If things go bad, my guy is not going to work with me. Now, there's nothing wrong with hearing something because even from the mouth of a donkey, wisdom can be spoken, right? God can speak to us through anything. I've heard some of the most profound things from the dumbest people I've ever met. and I will say that's like just listen, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I can be an idiot. I am terrible at spelling and pronunciation is not my strong suit.
If you walked up to a water fountain and it was 99% pure, would you drink it?
I mean, no, because I mean,
that goes back to what you're saying about the Tates,
water,
right?
even bottled water.
But the thing is, when you think about it, and I agree with you because we do cover Andrew Tate a lot on this channel.
Yeah, I've
because
seen it.
he is. People are like, why are you covering Andrew Tate? You guys are misogynistic. You shouldn't be covering. We're like, well, no,
he's influential.
He's influential, so therefore we're going to cover people that are influential and give our take of saying, no, there's actually a better way. There's more of a healthy, holistic masculinity that is actually traditionally masculine, that is foundationally has biblical values and principles interwoven between it, that doesn't dirty down the message to try to invite people in just because they maybe disagree with a lot of what you're saying.
Well, and think about the kind of people that message brings in, right? They're lost,
Yeah.
They have nothing, and they're weak-minded.
Impressionable teens and young adults.
It gives you a reason to feel, I'm a part of something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm special. Like, this guy said it, so it's real. And again, like, I grew up in a very cultish like church environment where the man behind the pulpit was God. What he said, even if he interpreted a scripture differently, oh no, this is the interpretation. And if he was wrong, never apologize for it. Would just work a way around that, right? Or if someone did something wrong, he wouldn't call them out publicly.
You just write a book.
Well, no, he yeah, I mean, write a book and make money on it. That did happen too. But like, there would be this word that got spoken from the pulpit. The name wouldn't be said, but everyone knew who you were talking about. So you were afraid to disobey that man because it was like, I don't want to look bad. I don't want to be shunned by the people, right? Like, this is, and it's a psychological perspective, right? Like, I forget the name of this study, but essentially it's where you do good and you're a part of us. You do bad and we pretend you're an outcast. You're nothing to us. Now you have to earn your way back. Okay, be a good little boy. Okay, now you're back in good graces again.
Sounds like a lot of activist groups.
It's very, very, very,
for me,
psychologically
I've always
damaging.
said I agree with about 2/3 of what Tate says, and the other third I don't. So the question is, does the good outweigh the bad?
It shouldn't have to.
And what I mean by this is, why is Tate so popular? I think that's a very important thing to diagnose. I'm asking the question and I'll answer it from my opinion and then you can give yours. He's popular because of the societal issue of demasculating men and making it so that men have no place in actual house as a leader anymore. And so they've made it to where women and men are the same. We both believe they're the same in value, but we do have different roles. And that can mean the women can work too, the men can work, but we are meant to be complements, not the same. If that was the case, I would marry another dude, right? And so I think if that was the case. So the problem is men are being told not to be men anymore. And so what he's seen a way to take advantage of that. And so he speaks directly into men about becoming disciplined. He's like a more intense version or more controversial version of Goggins.
He's done a smorgasbord. He's done a smorgasbord for people saying you can be like me when he's a 1% earner. So he's putting up this giant mirror and saying, you're a strong man. You can do it. Be disciplined, and you can be like me. You can have all my supercars. You can have all the women in the world. You can have the nice house, the Bugatti, all of it. But in order to get to that place, what did he have to do?
It's again,
what do you have to sell in order to your soul, parts of your soul?
When you look at individuals at their core, right? Like, what did I say to you last time? Like, anybody that says they have it all figured out, run as far away from them as you can, because no one has it figured out. I remember when I was away in Kentucky. This guy, Sean, really amazing individual. I worked for him for a while. He was like a mentor to me. Just really great guy. He said he was at a conference and there was this super influential pastor. Like, if I said his name, you would know, but I won't. And essentially he was giving this, like, I think there was like 30,000 people there, like whatever. And he was supposed to be a part of something. Guy pulled him aside because he knew what ministry he was a part of. And he's like, I need to talk to you. And he pulled him into a room and he was like, I need help. And went through a laundry list of stuff that he was involved in, like sleeping with young girls, like just insane stuff.
This guy talking to him was in the ministry too?
No, he was just like a very large, like pastor.
The pastor was sharing his heart.
The pastor was sharing his heart with my friend Sean. That was a part of this purity ministry.
Okay.
Anyway, long story short, he shared the story with me. And this guy was like the most cocky, like put together, like you're just like, you would never in a million years believe it. And he was a disaster. And he said in that moment, it hit him of like, everyone's a mess. Everyone's just trying to figure it out. And that's okay to admit that. Like, it's okay to say like, I'm not okay. Like you can lock away in the recesses of your mind, like I'm good, I'm strong, I'm this and that. But when you do that, what you end up doing is creating this fake reality where you're always having this mask on. And like, that's fine if that's how you want to live. But I know for me, I got tired of living with a mask on. So guys like Tate and these others that portray this idea that they're perfect and everything is wonderful and they control their destiny and all that. Like, yeah, but like you really don't, because you could wake up tomorrow, have a pain in your side, go to the doctor, and you have terminal cancer. And like, that's a simple reality. Like, you don't have your time here. I believe it's Pilgrim's Progress. Like we're here for a time, and we're also not a part of the culture. So if we're not a part of the culture and we're supposed to be something separate, that means if the darkness is great, the light should shine greater, right? So we should be such an image to people. That's why guys like Tate are so influential, because people are like, oh man, he's speaking so much truth.
Well, forget these shiny things.
Forget the other stuff. Forget the fact that he just said that he could raw dog any girl he wants. Listen to this. It's like, what? Like, are you that desperate for truth that you need to listen to some guy?
Isn't it wild? Who was the man that changed me in your life? Was Goggins.
Yeah.
Goggins.
And he says it. He's like, I'm not for everybody.
And that's the funny thing is that Goggins is just as intense as Tate.
Oh, probably more intense, honestly.
But you know what the difference is? Goggins is a man of moral character that never tells you to do something he won't do.
Yep.
And he has ethics. Right? You will never hear him saying, I can just pick up any girls I want. I can do this and that. But he's all about masculinity, but discipline.
But think about his message. When you hear him speak, it's all from experience. It's all raw. Yeah. And it's like you hear him talk and it all comes. Bro, when there was a story he talked about, and you remember, I don't know if you finished his first book. I'd gone through it twice and I'm on his second one now. But I mean,
he just posted on his Instagram, his book that you're talking about has over 7 million copies sold.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible because again, it's a true experience. So he talked about when his dad, he owned a roller rink, and the story about like just how he was treated. They'd sleep on the couch. They were up all night working. His mom got beat on a regular basis. His dad was drunk. He'd hang out with other women, all these different things. But he talked about the story of after his mom left his dad and he finally was on a good trajectory. She had met this great guy and then he was murdered.
I remember that.
And bro, I literally, like I was running when it happened. I literally started to weep because I was like, all right, I've felt so sorry for myself for so long. And this guy, every step of his life has gotten worse.
Yeah.
And it's always when he's doing the right thing. So it started to kind of turn something in me where I was like, all right, man, so life isn't fair. Anything can happen at any point, but I have to continue to do the right thing. And it just clicked. And it was like, all right, That's what it is.
You know what did that for me recently? 2 days ago, I rewatched Lone Survivor. I hadn't seen it except when I saw
Mark
it in
Wahlberg,
theaters.
shout out.
My wife hates him.
Really?
She's like, he's the same guy in every movie.
Not this
I'm
movie.
like, but it's Marky
Johnny,
Mark.
you want a sandwich?
Pain and Gain was something else, bro.
When his
He
toe,
looked like a swollen.
his toe gets shot off.
2,000 pounds of testosterone later.
But but Lone Survivor did that to me. I was actually, because I'd already seen it, I was editing while it was going on in the background, and knowing the end result didn't help. You know, I don't want to do spoilers, but when his brothers were just going through absolute agony, getting shot, all this stuff, and in that moment of despair, him and I can't remember what guy it was, they looked at each other and they're like, man, you're my brother. I'll die with my brother. And like the amount of discipline, but also mental fortitude to push through all that and somehow survive.
Yep.
And still he kept who he was.
Yeah.
Because we all go through crap, right? The question is, how much stuff can you get hit by and still stay true to yourself without compromising?
Watching, I'm going to relate it back to my dad again, like watching him throughout his stint, you know, he had to go, so he had gotten put on a ventilator, his oxygen had dropped because the chemo actually attacked his lungs, and he got bad pneumonia, had to go onto a ventilator, came off. I told you, you know, first thing he wakes up, he's asking about the store, and his mission throughout that entire time, it never changed. I got to get home. I got to rest up. I got to get back to the store. I got to take care of mom. I have to take care of mom. I got to be there for you guys. You know, Johnny, I'm worried about you. Like his family was everything to him. And that's what he committed his life to. So, you know, you talk about guys that are out there that are looking for a purpose, looking for a reason. You know, my father was far from a perfect man, but he understood his marching orders. And I'll relate it to that because he was a Marine. And, you know, militant type descriptions are easy to speak to because it's a very, everyone knows that, right? Learn and figure out what are your marching orders. What is something to your core you follow and it means everything to you? When you find that, just give yourself to it because everything will work from that. I had heard something really good years ago. When you make the right priority, for me, Jesus Christ, when that is in line, everything else falls in line appropriately. Jesus, my wife, my son, my family, my friends, my job, all that stuff, the way it's supposed to. It just all flows the way it's supposed to. So again, you structure your life a certain way, you discipline yourself. If you're overweight, if you don't, listen, you don't have to work out and listen to this channel, right? It's like, just be healthy, take care of yourself. If it means that you just want to go for walks every day, not everyone wants to go to the gym and destroy themselves. For me, I crave that because every time I go to the gym, I earn every ounce of what I do. I can go there and just chill all day. I can chit chat. I see people. There's this guy at the gym that we had worked out with. I went to high school with him. I'm not knocking the guy, but over a 2-year span, he looked exactly the same.
I remember you telling me that.
Every time I see my big bro, he looks the same. Because every time I saw him, what was he doing? He was just talking with people. He wanted to, and listen, that's great. He found a place to socialize. For me,
Twinkies and Coca-Cola.
Bro, I want to suffer because I know through that suffering, something beautiful is going to be born. And I love knowing I'm earning it.
But I would push back a little bit on that if people don't want to work out and they just want to go for walks, especially men, because we are talking to men on this channel, there is something, and I agree with you on the point of you earn every single portion of that workout, right?
Oh, 100%.
So as men, what is our innate desire is to conquer, is to achieve, is to have respect, not just by our spouse, but our community and our brothers that are with us. So I think there is a realistic time frame where you don't have to go to the gym 3 hours a day, right? You can go for 45 minutes, get a really good workout in, get your endorphins pumping, get your testosterone up. There are physical benefits of putting yourself through that suffering and pain of lifting those weights that goes more just beyond getting my body to look good. It's also for my mind, as Goggins talks about. Yeah. So it's a mental fortitude exercise of my body as a man, because men look at other men and just innately know that if that man is in shape, that he's put himself through a level of suffering to get to that physical stature, not just to have ripped abs and look in the mirror and do your little poses, you know, and oil yourself up and go for competitions. That's not for everybody.
I'm way too visual of a person.
You imagine oil?
I just envisioned you oiling yourself up in that little black shirt you had on with the.
I would actually look pretty good.
if you oiled yourself up.
Yeah, not with Crisco, but like actual like good olive oil.
I want to do it with Crisco.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's the only way I'm down for this.
Deep fried Don Parmesan.
Just dump it
If
all
we
over
get
it.
100,000 subscribers,
When, not if.
when we get 100,000 subscribers,
5,000.
we're gonna these two.
Oh, he said 5,000.
We're
going to have him back on. Guys, 5,000 subscribers. Let all your friends know we are starting a marketing campaign right now.
5,000 subscribers. This is what we're doing. No, I'm not even joking. You guys think I'm joking. You guys are gonna go topless. So scandalous. We're going to
sometimes is so freaking weird.
It's provocative. We don't even know what it means.
You all have pants on, so we're all good. We're gonna rub you both down with Crisco.
I don't appreciate that.
Don't rub me down. Just pour it on me. Don't make it gay.
We're gonna rub you down with oil, and then you both are gonna wrestle outside in the grass.
I mean, bro, you've been talking about something from like 15 years ago.
You talked about how you flipped him when you were like 12.
I did. He was on the high school wrestling team. I was homeschooled, so I didn't have.
You were
big
bottom
social
heavy.
life.
You had a big ass. Guy's built like an Oompa Loompa. I mean, he's tree trunks.
Loompa, loompa dee doo. I'm going to flip Don Parmesan.
So if you guys want to see that, mention in the comments. I just want to see y'all wrestle, bro.
I mean, I'm down.
I think we can. I mean, let's say 10,000 subscribers.
So, jumping back onto what you were saying, when I speak to not working out, I mean it from the perspective, like, I have a lot of buddies, like one of my good friends, like he hates lifting weights. He rides his bike, he hikes, he plays basketball. Like he's a very active guy. That's what I mean. So some people just, like, it's just something they don't, like my sister, for example, she's like, I hate being in a gym. I love, like, she'll go on a treadmill, she'll go for a long walk. Like,
yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So I think for people that find that thing you connect with, right? Like I have a good friend of mine. He's like, every time I talk to him, he's like, bro, pickleball, fastest growing sport in America. And I'm like, bro, I get it, bro. Like, I get it.
I will say
pickleball
this.
is actually you get your ass whooped by a lot of big people.
Older women.
Older women.
Like a
will
70-year-old grandmother will whoop your bottom.
Badonka-donk.
Yeah.
So I will
Sorry,
say
I can't curse. So
I cursed.
For men, I will say this. Maybe it's because I'm just a very strong, powerful man, which I won't say that.
I mean, bro, we're masochists. Like, call it what it is. Like I live to torture myself.
I will say this. If you are a man and you tell me that I just don't like going to the gym, then I say go to the gym. You know why? Because by doing the thing you hate is when you grow.
Oh, bro, I got something for you. I got something you're not gonna like, bro.
Bro.
I'm signing up for. I'm gonna say this live.
Running.
I'm signing up for an 8-miler, February 12th.
Oh, God.
The Wake Forest Off-Road.
His birthday.
February 12th.
Maybe it's. I think it's the 12th. I'll check to see the exact date. But
it's his birthday. You should go with you.
You want me to die on my 32nd birthday? I like
so
that.
I'm gonna tell you exactly when it is. Let me look it up really quick. If you're a man, it's the Ghost Road Trail Run. It's an 8-miler. I'm challenging you right now for all your followers.
In 3 months, you want me to go from barely being able to run a mile to 8.
Do you remember what I did? So I started in March
run a mile or two,
of 2001, March 22nd. I mean, that picture, you saw it. It's epic. And by April, May, I think it was the end of June, I was up to almost 9 miles.
Yeah, but you ran like 5 to 6 days a week.
Because I'm an animal and I'm a
no,
masochist.
it's because you literally all you did was
Are you
run.
not going to accept his challenge?
How about you do it with us? How about this? The Wilson brothers do it together.
Let's do it. I'm signing up for it. It's like $50. It's nothing.
That's the thing. He's like, yeah, he challenged you. He challenged you, and then I'm like, you're gonna do it.
You challenged him.
You're gonna do it too, bro? If
Let's
you
get
do
it.
it, I'll do it.
Let's get it.
Because you can't call me.
It's 8 miles, bro.
Stand by. Please stand by.
Listen, at the end of the day, you said it best. And I think the reason why, I mean, I like to run in general, but I sincerely feel when I run, bro, it's spiritual. I get out there.
There's nothing more painful.
Because it's such a deliberate action and it's constant, one foot in front of the other. You're pumping your arms, you're controlling your breathing, you're having to stay. As a runner specifically, once you lose track of that and you start to get into your mind, oh man, my legs feel heavy. Is my breathing okay? My head feels off. You're done. Like once you get into that place, it's really hard to come out of it. So like if I'm on a long run, I'm 6-7 miles in and I start thinking like that, bro, you go from feeling like you've been gliding to literally every step hurts.
Then what do you do to get out of that? To not have that happen, I should say.
I mean, I think it's a challenge that I've really I like to mess with myself. So
hey, bro, this is a PG
You sound
channel.
so much like Goggins right now.
No, hold on. You said you like to mess with yourself. This is a PG-13 channel. I'm just saying.
You have to make everything weird.
It's a weird
What
guy.
are you talking about?
I don't know, Isaac.
You were the one that brought up.
My
oiling
wife
each
has
other's-
joked that every time you come over, the conversation turns into a very funny
Bro, you
conversation.
were the one that brought up oiling each other's
She's
bodies.
like, Isaac's a very interesting guy.
I can hear you.
She actually said little guy, but anyway.
Oh.
Does your wife think I'm a weirdo? I got to change my image with her. If you're watching,
I'm gonna plead the
Oh, she
fifth.
will be watching.
if you're watching this,
She will watch.
my
this.
image will change around you. Just give me 2 weeks.
No, but I think like I like to put myself in situations that are like very unfair to myself. So like, for example, like I'll go on a long run. I bring no water. I put myself in a position where I have to run out and then come back versus like a loop. So I'm in a situation where it's like I have no choice but to
That's
finish.
smart. That's smart.
So mentally, I've already decided once I start, you're doing this. And like it's just so I guess part of it is I'm like establishing that in the front end, but there has definitely been times, and I'll tell you, it's always the first like mile or so. I'm like, I don't want to be out here. I remember there was a run a couple weeks back. I was out. All I did is complain, and I was like a quarter of the way through mile 2, and something just clicked, and I just started. I was howling. I'm screaming. I'm getting after it. Before I know it, I'm like 5 miles in and I'm just ready to go to war. And I'm like, people see me and I'm like growling at them. And like, it's, bro, I just like,
Quite the mental picture.
I just, but I enjoy it. I thrive on
It'd
that.
be fun for us to hang out on Halloween together.
I mean, bro, my guy, we dressed him as Lightning McQueen. I was just a dad. Like I wore a hoodie and some sweats. Like I was just dad.
All right, let's wrap up with this question. I have a question for you, JP. So
Yeah.
we've been talking to men for probably this entire podcast. What would you say, because we do have a pretty decent female audience as well.
It's awesome, yeah.
What would you say to the wife or the single mom who has had men in her life, either her husband that she currently has or an ex that has been very either abusive or not been the best representation of who a man can be?
Yeah.
What would you say to the woman that is crying out for that strong masculine man? What advice or hope or encouragement would you give to her?
I mean, like first and foremost, I have to say, like from a very like sincere place, like someone will not change unless they want to. You cannot change anyone. So like if you're in a situation, and like I'll be honest, I was always a fixer. Like I'd find the most deranged, jacked up girl, and I'd be like, that's my girl. Like, you know, Captain Save-A-Ho? You ever Captain Save-A-Ho? Like that, bro. Like, and my sister's ex would always, he'd be like, Johnny, Captain Save-A-Ho. Like, I'm like, no, she's gonna be all right. Like, bro, I was,
She's gonna make it.
You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Like, that's what he would always say. But anyway, point being, if someone's in a bad place, like, yeah, support them, love them, whatever that is. My wife, I'll use her as the example, man. Like she will hold my feet to the fire on something if she feels some kind of way. And she has every right to do that because she's my wife. And we have a covenant and we have vows that we said to one another in front of God and our loved ones. So I think first and foremost, like as a man, I said it to you last time, like one of the most dear things she's ever said to me, we were talking about some stuff and like, listen, I'm like I said, I'm not perfect. And she's told me where she appreciates very dearly that whenever something happens, we can talk about it and I'll hear her and we can really have a conversation and connect through it. And like, I always tell her, I never want you to be afraid, scared, unsure. I never want there to be something you can't tell me and open up about. Even if you know, like, I'm not going to love it, let's get through it. Let's figure it out. Let's walk through it. Because the last thing I want is to be 20, 30 years down the road. Our kids grow up, they move out. And she's like, I don't love you anymore, and I want a divorce. Because like, think about how many people in their 50s that end up getting divorces after the kids move out because your whole purpose became taking care of your children to where you lost all of the intimacy with one another. Like her mom and dad, she'll say it, like they adore each other so deeply, and they've always put that in such an intimate place in their life. And you're around them, man, and it's like, I am so honored to be able to see that type of love. Like my mother and father, like her mother and father, like to see people that just like their abandonment for one another. So, I mean, to say to someone, I think it's just one, like if you're not in a healthy, like safe place, like get out, right? Like I have one of, a few of my friends I've had in the past, like they were in very like bad physical relationships. It never gets better. Like if someone puts their hands on you, like they don't love you, they don't care about you, like get away from that. But I think sincerely, it's understanding that you have to have a relationship with somebody that comes from a place of true repentance and true humility. And like I said, like I am not perfect, but I'm not in the moment, but I'm very quick to be like, hey, like I'm really wrong. Like how many times, and over the last, I think probably 4 or 5 months, like you've seen, like there's been certain people in our lives that I'm like, hey man, like I just don't want to be at odds with people. Like I want, the Bible says it, right? Like be at peace with all men. And you can't always, but you can make that effort. And again, it comes back to action and just being willing to say, hey, this is who I am. Like, this is what I am. And I'm just going to be 100% real with you about it. And like, my sister always says it to me. She's like, you're so easily agitated, John. And I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to be around them. And she's like, well, that's not right. And she's right. You know, I can say that and joke about it, but I walk away and like, she's right. What image am I portraying to people? Like, I'll be honest with you. I don't like people. I don't want more friends. I don't want to talk to people, but that's not what I'm called to be. So I have to fight it. The older I've gotten, I used to be, dude, I can meet somebody in 3 minutes. I can tell you their life story, everything about them. As I've gotten older, I see people and I'm like, I don't want to talk to this person. But there's something that is so powerful when you don't want to do it and you know what's right to do and you do it anyway. And it comes from a sincere place. I'll tell you, I'll wrap up with this. When I went away to Kentucky, my early 20s, something they would teach us, if someone upset you, you wanted to lust after a woman, if you wanted to anything bad towards somebody, pray over them. Pray mercy for them. God, I pray that you increase in their lives. I pray that you bless them. I pray that you shower them with peace and mercy and grace, and you fill their life with hope and joy and all these different things that you can pray over someone. Because when you do that consistently, whether it's a coworker, a boss, an individual in your life, man, there's something powerful in that, because you're doing something you don't want to do, but you know it's right to do. And there's just something innately, I believe that there's spiritual powers and rules that God put into the universe that if you do them, like you will reap what you sow. You can be a bad person, and you know people that you probably have in your life that like they have everything good in their life, and you're like, he is such a scumbag. Why is this bro always get everything he needs? I promise you, he's either he's definitely very empty inside, but it will come back to him. And if it doesn't happen in this life, it'll happen in the next. And I'll tell you right now, I'd rather not reap in this life the goodness and reap it in the next life than reap all these good things in this life and reap the bad in the next. So
forgiveness is the best.
It is
the best weapon against, and the enemy, darkness, just in general, because if you choose to forgive and release those people that don't even deserve it, it's not even just for them, it's for you. That's the ultimate gift you give yourself.
Drinking poison and expecting you to get sick, right?
Correct.
And I think it's funny too, when you talk about eternity, a lot of people are like, I don't know if I believe in heaven or I believe in hell. Believe in this. Who you are today, I believe, will echo in eternity. So if you died right now,
Braveheart.
Come on. So if you believe and you live a life full of joy and hope and love and you're tender and you have this fullness in you at all times, and you treat people with that, you're a giving, generous person, you're honest, you make a mistake, you ask for forgiveness, you try to make it right, I believe that is who you will be in eternity. If you're crappy person, you cheat people, you lie, you're bitter, you're full of anger and hate, I believe that's what you'll carry into eternity. So work on today and worry about tomorrow when it happens, right? Because at the end of the day, all you can affect is right now. You can't fix the past, can't fix the future. The present's a gift. That's why they call it a present, right?
Yeah.
So.
When you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see?
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think is the question. As a man, because most of our message is for men, but also for the women watching, when you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see? What is the accurate representation of your life? Have you practiced forgiveness? Have you practiced mercy in your everyday life towards the people that don't even deserve it, because it's a gift that you give to yourself? The gift that you give yourself will consistently reap benefits, even in the areas of gratitude, of reflection, of waking up every day and just being happy to be alive. Denzel Washington even says, and when I get out of bed in the morning, my sandals are underneath my bed so that I have to get on my knees to pray, to get my sandals out. Just having a consistent posture of gratitude, prayer, and forgiveness is the ultimate formula in my perspective, of being a masculine, strong man, because we need more of that in today's society. Both sides of the political spectrum are just constantly biting each other's heads off. There's war overseas. There's constant struggle and strife happening in today's world. And if as men, we can set the standard of masculinity and be strong, not just mentally, but spiritually and emotionally and physically, then we can really help to set the new standard for men.
And I'll leave you with another thing that I think is really important. Again, we chatted about it last time. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I will never criticize another man for what he does, because in the same circumstance, I would be no different. And
it's true.
if you have a reality that is so real to you, I have it on my back, perception is reality. If you believe something so deeply and I disrupt that reality for you, it's so much easier for you to hate me than listen and say, maybe you're telling the truth and I've just believed something that's a lie all this time. There's no man that's more hopelessly enslaved than the one that's in prison and believe that he's free. So when you live a life full of these ideas, and what did we say last time? Everyone has to have a narrative because it makes you feel safe.
Self-delusion.
If you're comforted in a reality and I tell you, hey, that's not true, instead of being like, all right, well, let's talk about it. Dude, diversity of thought is the most beautiful thing in this world.
Free speech.
I've always told people that I have friends, I have gay friends, Muslim friends, Christian friends, atheists. It's not about just proving to everyone that you're right. It's about, can we have a drink, discuss our differences, and still walk away as friends and agree that there are some things we might agree on, there's some things we might disagree on, but it's about how can we be harmonious with each other without judging each other and saying, oh, you're this way, because we don't have it all figured out.
But also being able to disagree.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Sitting down and saying, how do we start this conversation? We started by saying, what do we have in common? Let's start there.
Well, no, it's honestly not even what we have in common. It's tell me about yourself. It's
tell me about your life.
It's being interested in the other person.
From a business perspective, like that's how I connect with clients. That's how I sell to them, right? Is I build a relationship. I start off all my calls, tell me about yourself. What do you do at the company?
Exactly.
How does it relate to us? What are areas that, you carry out on a daily basis? How long you've been there? So I can get an understanding and a feel for them, right? And like I had a call the other day with a gal. I could tell she just didn't want to talk. She was all about business. I was like, all right, cool. And we ran through what we had to run to. We were done. I had a call literally right after that. Sweetest lady in the world. We talked for about an hour. We chit-chatted. We joked about family, kids, Thanksgiving. Awesome, so you have to know your audience and understand, but you have to have a basis for that conversation. And I think a lot of people, when they get into those conversations with someone that's an atheist or a Muslim or someone that's gay or someone that's of a different belief, that's fine. I love everyone. I truly do. I think that when you start to throw away the foundation of what you stand on, like, okay, well, let's take the Bible out of it. No, the Bible's my foundation. I'm not going to dismiss my foundation because then you win, because then I have nothing to rely on. So I'm not going to take the Bible out of it. I'm going to stand on what I believe in, but we can have a full-fledged conversation. I remember I had a guy that I had worked with years ago, and like he thought that I hated gay people, and I'm like, no. And we had like an hour and a half conversation at work, and we walked away, and he told one of the girls I work with, and she told me after, she was like, he was so surprised you didn't hate him. I'm like, why would I hate him? She's like, well, because he's gay. I'm like, that means nothing to me. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like why would that constitute him being a bad person or something? I'm not no man. I'm no one to judge him. He has to stand before God for whatever he does, just like I do. So why would I judge him when I have all this stuff in my own life that I
also,
do?
If you want to have influence in the world, not from a selfish purpose, but actually make a difference. If you hate people, you are no longer going to have influence with those people.
Listen, man, at the end of the day, the reality is how you treat the least of these is how you treat me, right? So, I have so many times I've looked at, I grew up in a really different type of environment than a lot of the kids like I got to know in high school and as I got older. And, like in my church, for example, like it's a very, very like gospel-filled church. So like a lot of my friends growing up were of different demographics. And like, so I was never trained to see color. Like I didn't even know anything about that until I got older and started to like see it. And it was like really confusing to me. And that was one of the things about my dad and my mom that like I'll always hold dear, is like they never taught me about that, because to them they didn't see it either. Like you're just a person. Like that's all it is.
I didn't even know racism existed till I was 14.
Yeah.
Because all my friends growing up were black. And it was such a normal thing for me. And then, to be in that culture, because they respected me. I respected them.
Are you a good person? That's it.
Yeah,
that's all I was trained with.
It was. Yeah. And so as I grew up and I found out there is I knew the history of racism, right? Like I knew about the KKK, all that stuff. But growing up, my environment didn't show me that, because I was so used to there being such respect and love. And then when I grew up and got older, I realized, okay, so it has happened to a lot of people. And not a lot of people see the world the way I do. No. And it was shocking, man.
It's mind-blowing.
John 13:35, we end with this. By this, and Jesus talking to his disciples, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Love is the biggest, most powerful weapon in the universe. And it can divide if you do it not out of a place of love, but out of a place of hate, out of a place of death. Because perfect love is this, that you know who you are, you know whose you are, and you know where you belong. And that's your foundation as a man or even as a woman, right? You have to know that love is the biggest weapon to tear down.
And also love isn't always the same thing. For example, love can also be, I'm going to push you. And so it might be a more aggressive love, right? Like I feel like when I was watching David Goggins, even though he doesn't know me, he was loving on me by cursing at me. Bro. And it was because he was helping me get out of that. So it doesn't mean love isn't always, oh, it's okay. Yeah. Like sometimes that's a form of love, but there's tough love and helping people to get out of sometimes.
All you need is love.
Love is all you need.
I'm not singing. I agree with that for sure. And a lot of his message, I think it's related back to just, it's sober truth, man. And he's someone that, he even says, he's like, I don't care if you like me or accept me. He's like, I have a message and I'm going to get it out to everyone. And if they hear it and they interpret it the way that they want to, that's fine. But he's lived his truth and he will die in his truth. And like I said, like for me, like seeing what I've experienced in my life over the years, like drug addiction, money troubles, health troubles, losing really close friend, one of my really good friends, I've lost many friends to suicide, just a lot of things that have happened. It's sobered me to realize like, man, I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I know right now, today, I have a responsibility to step up and stand on my truth. Wow. And I'm just going to live in that. And I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess up. But I think it's life is just so short. We don't know when tomorrow will happen, and that tomorrow could be the end. And I know one of the things that's been really inspiring for me, especially lately, that mantle from my father. Like he affected so many lives. My mom will call me and she'll say, hey, I was at the store today, and she'll tell me stories about all these people that come in and they're just like weeping about my dad. And like he always used to pray over me, or he would just talk to me. Like there's a lot of, they're on Capitol Boulevard, and there was a lot of people that would come in and like drug addicts, different people like that have just they're in dark places. And they were like, he was so respectful to me. He treated me like such a person. And like, that is something that about my father, like he'll never know how dear that is to me, that I got to see that. Like growing up, I was homeschooled. So he brought me everywhere with him. So I got to see everyone knew who my dad was, and he was such a massive personality. So, for people that don't have that type of fatherly figure, it's really hard because I don't feel like they have something to rely on in that sense. But I think that you can find the right type of people. Look in your community. They're out there. There's great men out there. And I think the hardest part for men especially is to trust, but you get hurt in community and you get healed in community. So sometimes you just have to accept like, I've been hurt. This sucks, but it's time for me to step out and put myself out there. And, I'm learning, I'm taking it step by step, day by day. Again, I'm far from perfect, but it's
brotherhood, man.
Yeah.
That's why we started this channel. Ultimately, Wilson Brothers, we were sitting on the couch, David and I, and David's like, why aren't we doing this? Masculinity is under attack in America specifically right now, just even in the West in general. And men are being demasculated. They're being feminized. They're not being respected for their actual roles that they have as traditionally masculine men. And that definition is under attack. And so we wanted to say, okay, we were raised really well by an amazing father, an amazing mom. Let's set the standard again and say, no, it's okay to be a man. It's okay to stand up for what you believe, to have a good, firm foundation, to stand by your morals, your ethics, your code that you live your life by. Have a brotherhood around you of men that can hold you to that standard and hold you to the fire even at times when you don't feel like you don't have the motivation, but they help you to kick in that discipline that's required to get where you want to go.
I mean, bro, how many months when we were working out together and you had fallen off for a little bit, you had stuff going on in your life.
You're like, bro.
I would text you almost every day, hey, bro, how did you work out today? And I wouldn't hear from you for like 4 or 5 hours, and I get a text. It'd be like a paragraph. Hey, bro, sorry, it's been a really busy day.
Slap me in the face.
But no, you need your brothers in that.
Yeah,
life.
but like you were in a rough, in a rough spot, and I knew that, and you knew it was never from a place of judgment. It was always like, hey, bro, I miss you.
Hey, bro, you have to give those few people in your life that you trust with your life. I give my life for you. I trust you. You're my brother. You give those people the right to speak into your life unapologetically because you know they have your back and they have the best for you. So every day you text me, it's annoying, but I'm like, he's freaking right. He's freaking right.
And so after a little while, you got back to it? I got
right back to it because I was like, I'm tired of letting my brothers down, but I'm tired of letting myself down.
And that was the biggest thing because I saw the best versions of you and you pulled it out of me. Like, And it's funny when you know, I lift alone now. Like I go to the gym and like people are always walking around, and I'll see different people. There's a few guys I'll see up there that are really cool, chat for a little bit, but like, you know, I throw my ball cap on and I just get after it and I go just to war with myself. But there is something to be said about being in that environment with others, and like you just pull something out of one another. Like you're looking and you're like, dang, bro, I've been sitting here for like 30 seconds taking a break, and this guy's doing like 3 exercises in between each exercise.
Or he's lifting 100 pounds more than me.
Yeah, like what am I doing right now? Like why? So, you know, it's fun, man. There's that competition that takes place. But again, it's just about having that community around you that at times you're gonna fall on your face, you're gonna be down, and you have to have people that, again, and it's give and take too. I think there's a lot of relationships that you'll experience where it's like you're always giving. And it's hard because you're like, well, where am I reciprocity, right? Like, where is that? So I think, you know, you have to take an itinerary.
Yeah, like an itinerary.
There you go. Yeah.
You have to take.
Yeah. But no, you have to really. I mean, write down a list of like pros and cons. Like, if you have relationships you feel like are not feeding your soul, like look into that.
Keep it very tight knit. Like I have friends that are my fantasy football friends. I have friends that
there's levels.
That I see and I'm like, okay, cool. You know, let's go out for coffee. And then I have like 2 to 3 friends, including Isaac, obviously, that I'm like, dude, like
Obviously.
you call me up at 4 a.m. and you could be 2 hours away in a ditch with your car, and I'm like, bro, I got you. You know, like there's a very few people you can give that level of impact into your life.
100%.
We appreciate you guys, dude. Thanks for coming, bro.
Thanks for coming,
Appreciate
man.
you guys having me.
We've had some
That's what she
pitfalls,
said.
technical failures, but we're back
on the saddle.
Back on the saddle.
Back at it again, Daniel.
Daniel Parmesan, we out.
Peace.